and he brought up the divorce papers. I met my husband through a mutual hobby. As he taught me what I couldn't do, I was attracted to his dependable personality, and we got together, got married, and had a daughter 2 years later. Marriage and childbirth took us away from our shared hobby, but my husband was still a dependable man in our lives. "Thank you. You're so great," I told him every time.
"You owe this happy life to me, don't you?"
It had become his habit to say so. I had been bothered by it since I noticed it. But he was really a dependable person, and more importantly, after I got married, I became a full-time housewife. So I just accepted the fact he was earning money for me and had a point. Until 2 years ago, when he suddenly quit his job. It was a normal weekday, and I was waiting for my husband to come home while my daughter, who had just started elementary school, was doing her homework. Then he came home a little later than usual, in a strangely good mood.
"Hey, I quit my job."
That's what he said. At first, I didn't understand what he meant. It was like he'd been drinking a little bit and being defiant. Huh? What? Why?
"I've had a boss that I don't like for a long time, but today, just because I made a mistake, he told me I was useless and unreliable. He said that he usually does more work than the others, and that's why the department is running. I was so annoyed that we started arguing, and I said, 'I quit,' and walked out of the office."
I was surprised myself that someone would really say something like that. He looked very refreshed, though. I convinced him to calm down for the time being because it seemed like he was in the heat of the moment. Our daughter is still little, and it's not good for us to lose our income, so I want you to think it over.
"You're only doing the housework and raising a child, so it's easy for you. I'm the one who is having a hard time, but you're always talking about money."
It's not easy, and don't talk to me like that.
"I was just in a good mood. Have a little bit of respect for your husband."
For some reason, he thought that I would just thank him for his hard work and that I would accept it. It's not that I had no respect for my husband, but I was more surprised and anxious. And more than anything, I couldn't forgive him for his attitude of making decisions on his own and feeling relieved about them. It seemed that he had decided to quit on the spur of the moment, and later his boss suggested that they have a meeting to discuss the matter. Hearing that, I told my husband to reconsider.
"See? They need me. I'm going to join a bigger company and make them regret all the things they said to me."
He didn't listen to me until the end. I guess he was having a hard time backing down after he said that, so he ended up resigning. We had some savings, so I thought it would be okay if he could get a new job soon.
"Don't worry. I'll find a place that pays better than that company and give you a better life than you have now."
It's been 2 years since he said that. I've managed to make ends meet by saving. I tried to talk to him, including the possibility of me working, but he pretended to be looking for a job.
Well, I'm sure I'll find a job soon."
He wouldn't listen to me. He was sitting on the couch playing with his phone.
"The commute is too long. The conditions are just not good enough."
He was just pretending to look for a job. I'm at the end of my patience, and I've decided that I really need to do something about it, including getting a job. So I asked him for some serious advice. "Hey, we're really running out of money. Why don't you try working somewhere?" He suddenly got angry at me.
"Well, why don't you try working? You're just doing housework and raising a child."
Housework and raising a child are great jobs. In fact, it's getting hard to do both while saving money. I thought I had calmly and honestly told my husband that I was in trouble, but this great job seemed to offend him.
"Are you saying that your job is harder than what I used to do? I mean, you just cook a little and clean a little. If you're going to be like that, why don't you go to work? You used to be the kind of woman who never forgot to thank me for everything. But now that you're living off my income, you think you're great just for doing the housework and raising the child? I don't like that."
He was being sarcastic. I don't think like that.
"In fact, we're living a normal life now. Who do you think worked so hard to get those savings?"
I'm sure we're getting by on our savings now from your income, but we're saving quite a bit, okay?
You're not serious about saving money, aren't you? We're eating snacks and buying clothes as usual. You're not working hard enough, whether it's housework or saving money. I've been working hard and earning money for years, so why don't you go to work and support the family? Well, I don't think you can, though.
If I'm going to consider working, you're going to have to help me with the housework and saving money. Anyway, I don't want you to stay on the couch all day. I need you to try to get a job or do some housework.
Huh? Why can't you work just because of the housework? I'm telling you that if you work harder, you'll be able to manage both. You're just making excuses because you're not confident enough to find a job. You really can't do anything without relying on me, can you?
I guess I've been praising him a lot for a long time, and it's been working in a weird way. We're a couple, so it's normal to depend on each other. If you don't want to work, I'll work harder. Even if it's just helping out a little at first, you've got to help me because job hunting is hard enough as is. I tried to persuade him, but he insisted that he would not do the housework. Even so, I persistently asked him to do something about it, and his tone gradually became rougher and rougher.
I didn't think you were this cocky. If you're not going to support your husband in a sullen way, I'll consider divorcing you. Is that okay with you?
I don't know when he got them, but my husband brought out the divorce papers. I wondered why he would say such a thing, or if he had been thinking about divorce for a long time, because he had the divorce papers. And so many other things came out of the blue that I couldn't respond to anything. When I didn't say anything, my husband looked at me with a triumphant look on his face.
Well, if you change your mind, I'll reconsider about the divorce. Just take your time to think about it.
With that, he left the room. He just pushed divorce papers on me, and I've been thinking about it for a few days, but I don't know what to do. I'm going to talk to him about the divorce tonight. I can't live with you if you don't help me. I want to go back to my parents and work while they help me with the housework and raising a child. So let's get a divorce, I told him. At first, he ignored me as usual, but as soon as I said I was divorcing him, he got pale and became impatient.
Huh? Are you serious? Do you really think you can get a job?
It's not that I can or I can't do it, but I just can't stand this situation anymore.
Well, I don't know what to say to you when you tell me you want a divorce all of a sudden.
He was always saying how I needed him, but I've never heard his voice trembling like that before.
But you and Sophia can't do anything on your own, right? I won't be able to change the light bulbs for you anymore.
Looking at my husband being so shaken up and repeating how he wouldn't be able to do this and that, I was getting more and more determined about divorcing him. He didn't say he'd work right away, and I'm already moving toward divorce. We're going to talk about it one more time tomorrow. We had a talk. I told him that I wanted to make sure again how much he was willing to work for the time being. I told him again what I had said when he handed me the divorce papers, that we could manage if we both worked, even if our income went down, and that we wanted to share the housework and childcare for that purpose. My husband was very depressed because of what happened yesterday, but he started blurting out his opinions in a quiet voice.
I'm not saying I'm not willing to work, but it's hard to find a job that fits the criteria I'm looking for. With my background, I should be able to get a good job. I can't get into a crappy company. I was stunned that he would say such a thing after all this time, even though he had worked very hard and held a decent position at his previous company. It's impossible to focus only on his wishes in the current situation. If you could put some of that motivation toward housework and parenting, I'd be able to work part-time and do my best, so please think about it. I tried to come to terms with the divorce in my own way, but I think it's a waste of my abilities to do housework and parenting. With this one word, I gave up. After that, housework is just cooking a little and cleaning a little in between. You're not competent enough, so that's all you can do. And he said whatever he wanted to say. Enough. Let's get a divorce, I told him clearly. My husband, for all that he'd said, still wanted to avoid divorce. I'm talking about doing something about your poor capacity. I'll show you how to do it, and you can figure out how to work while doing housework and parenting. In the meantime, I'm sure I'll find a job. He kept saying the same thing like this, and we didn't get anywhere, and it took quite a while, and my daughter came home from school before we could come to an agreement. My daughter must have sensed the strange mood.
What's wrong?
And she didn't go into her room, but she just called out to us.
You two have been scary.
I felt bad when I heard these words. My daughter is now in the 3rd grade of elementary school, and even though she is young, she is old enough to understand and guess certain things. Until the other day, we were like close parents to a child. She hasn't seen us fight, but now when I'm doing the housework, my husband would say,
"Whoa, your mom is working as hard as she can."
He would tell her with a smirk on his face. My daughter was having a hard time deciding what to answer to him. My husband thinks that if he can get her on his side, he can get by. When my daughter approached him, he took the opportunity to start talking to her.
"Sophia, welcome back. Your mom and I might be going to live separately."
What?
"Your mother. She doesn't want to cook meals and do laundry anymore. But if we live separately, you won't be able to play with me, and I won't be able to help you with your studies, you know. Isn't that sad?"
He had just been talking down to me in a condescending manner and being unreasonable, but his sudden sweet voice made me feel very uncomfortable. I didn't like that he was blaming me for everything, but I knew I couldn't argue with him in front of my daughter, so I just swallowed hard.
"Sophia, you sit here too. I just told your mother that she should try to do a little more of the dishes and laundry. Sophia, wouldn't you miss me if I suddenly left? Let's tell your mother to work harder together."
As you can imagine, I argued when I saw him make Sophia sit next to him. It's not right to drag Sophia into this. We need to come to a decision together.
"But I'm sure Sophia will miss me."
My husband was completely focused on our daughter, and I thought that this was going to be another failed conversation. But my daughter, who was looking straight at my husband, said,
I'm going to live with Mom.
"What?"
I'll miss Mom, but I don't care about you, Dad.
I was surprised, but my husband was quite taken aback. His mouth was gaping and he couldn't seem to get any words out.
"What? What do you mean?"
Because Mom cooks dinner, I do my homework, and you always do nothing. I thought it was unfair, and I'm fine without you.
It seemed like Sophia was dissatisfied with my husband in her own way, even before we started fighting. She was also beginning to be rebellious, so I guess she disliked her father even more at the time. Mason, who didn't play with her and didn't teach her anything, didn't seem to notice.
You don't play with me, and you don't help me with my studies.
"But we went to the park together."
That's when I was in kindergarten.
My husband, who was always sarcastic towards me, didn't seem to be able to say anything back to my daughter. His mouth turned into a grunt and he became smaller and smaller.
"But look, if I'm not here..."
You're just playing on your phone. I don't care if you're not here.
"Don't say that."
To be honest, my daughter's words helped me a lot. I think it hurt a lot that she said she didn't care if he was there or not, and my husband just looked down and didn't say anything anymore. I felt I had to thank my daughter, but at the same time, I thought that I had to be stronger. In the end, he didn't say a word after that, and he just nodded his head and I talked about the arrangements for the divorce. After we finished talking, I said, "So that's that." I stood up.
"You're really sure about this? I'm going away."
He said with a desperate look on his face, but...
Dad, you're talking too loud.
"I'm sorry."
My husband's voice became quiet again at the sound of my daughter's disgusted voice. That's when the ugly struggle began.
"I'm sorry, Sophia. I'm going to work. You may not know it now, but there will come a time when you will definitely wish you had a father."
Mom.
My daughter has never seen her father sound so pathetic as he sobbed half-heartedly. He had been very strong until a few minutes ago, but now he was in trouble and sat down next to me and grabbed my arm. All the while, my husband kept apologizing.
"I'm sorry."
For a moment, I almost felt compassion for him, but the events of the past few days had already hardened my feelings. Enough is enough. I've tried to talk to you many times before, but it's your fault for not taking me seriously. My husband was disheartened, but he still didn't like what I had to say to him, and he continued to argue with me.
"Shut up. While I was looking for a job, you made Sophia take your side. I'll never forgive you, even if you apologize to me after the divorce."
It's okay because I won't turn to you for help even if I was in trouble. I was so disgusted with what my husband was saying that I just tried to ignore him. My daughter, perhaps sensing the air, was quick to offer me a backup.
It's kind of lame that you're only complaining to Mom.
"Lame? Sophia."
Mom, let's just ignore him and have dinner. I'm hungry.
"Sophia, this is more important than dinner. Let's talk about this, for God's sake."
Dad, when I ask you to listen to something important, you always listen to me while playing with your phone.
When she came home from school, she would often sit on the sofa and talk to my husband about what had happened at school, her worries and which things she wanted to buy first with her limited allowance. All of these things were important to our elementary school daughter, but my husband would not take his eyes off his phone and would often just reply with a blank stare.
No, that's because I was busy looking for a job.
I had heard this excuse many times, but my husband froze when my daughter refuted it.
No, it's always a game on the screen.
Well, that was...
Enough. I don't want you, Dad. You don't do anything, so you don't get to eat. I want to go out for a nice meal with just the two of us, Mom. I want to eat sushi.
Yeah, we're always trying to save money, but we should eat out once in a while. Shall we go? My husband was kind of mumbling after that, but then he looked up and said,
I hate both of you.
With that, he locked himself in the bedroom. I'm amazed at the nerve of him to think we still like him when he hasn't done anything to us. I'm slightly depressed that he's going to throw a tantrum every time I go through the process, but I think I'm going to be able to get a divorce. Thank God for my daughter. I'm worried that I'm going to be busy with the divorce, moving, and job hunting, but I'm going to do my best for my daughter's sake. A few days later, I'm happy to report that my divorce was successfully finalized and my life has settled down. I came home with my daughter and worked hard to find a job while my parents took care of her. I was a divorced woman with no particular skills and had never worked. I got married, but I was lucky enough to be hired as an office worker at a small local company. The people around me are very nice, and my daughter seems to be enjoying life. My daughter hasn't said anything about my husband, but maybe she's just not telling me out of concern for me, so I'm planning to talk to her about it when the time is right. Sophia might have thought that I really don't like to do housework since Mason told her that, and she started trying to help me with it, so even though I tell her that I'm fine, I let her help me. I think my husband went back to his parents after the divorce. His parents even came by to my house to apologize. According to my ex-mother-in-law, even at home he complained that it was difficult for him to find a job because I was too cocky. He also complained that his daughter grew up to be cocky just like her mother. His parents scolded him severely, but he was planning to stay at home all the time, and he started talking about the conditions while looking at his phone again. She said that it wasn't good for him and that she was going to kick him out after a month or so without telling him. Anyway, I'm going to forget about my husband and do my best to be happy with my daughter.